Hey guys, some of you have been asking for some back to school stuff, and although I have a tendency to post it way too quickly, I figured this would be a good week since some of you have started school already and some of you will be going back in September, so I really hope you'll enjoy. We're going to start off by making the backpack, and for this you want to begin by making the pattern. The first two pieces you'll need are for the front and back and then the sides. You'll need one for the pocket on the front, and you'll need to cut one that looks like what I drew and then one without the curve, and then you'll also need one for the side pockets. First you want to sketch them onto a piece of fabric of your choice and then just cut them out, leaving enough room for seam allowance. And because the fabric I used was really thin, I cut two pieces for the front and two for the back. Starting with the two pieces for the front and front pocket, I first folded and sewed along the top edge of this bottom piece, and I did use a sewing machine for this. Next I cut off the excess fabric from the top of the second piece, and depending on the type of fabric you're using, to minimize the risk of it fraying, you can apply some glaze or glue to the edge. Then place this piece on top of the pieces for the front and sew along this line to attach it. Then put the first piece on top. Take the two pieces for the sides, fold and sew along the top edge of each. And do the same with the side pockets. I then place the side pocket on each end and attach these by sewing along the bottom. You can then place the front and sides good side to good side and sew them together. Do the same for the back. And then lastly, I sewed on a bottom piece, and for this I didn't make a template, I just cut a rectangle and sewed on the sides one by one. And I just cut off any excess as I went along. You can then flip it inside out and you have the basic bag. Once again, because the fabric I used was pretty thin, I cut and glued in some pieces of cardstock just to help hold the shape. I glued on some ribbon for the straps. And I then painted on some details using acrylic paint mixed with fabric medium. To make the ruler, you want to take 3 colors of clay and roll out 3 thin sheets. Starting with the pink shade, you can cut out the basic shape and then add the white and green to the bottom. After baking, add some details using acrylic paint and seal it with glaze. To make the watercolor palette, I first used strips of clay to make 3 hearts. I then pre-baked this, added clay to the bottom, and baked again. After baking, I filled it up with watercolors and set it aside to dry, and then made a quick brush using a toothpick, the bristles from a cheap brush from eBay, acrylic paint, and silver-colored alcohol ink. To make a super quick notebook, I first cut some pages from a thin sheet of paper, folded a piece of cardstock to fit the outside and then glued these together. And then made a name tag on the front using acrylic paint. For the chalkboard, I took one of these chalkboard stickers, cut out a piece and put it on top of a thin sheet of wood. Then cut this out and sanded the edges. I also cut, folded and glued on a strip of metal to the bottom. Cut off a small piece from a sponge, and then if you want to see how to make the chalk, you can check out my tutorial, which I'll link in the info box. Lastly, I made a super quick sandwich using some dough-colored clay. I first made the 2 pieces of bread and then added texture to one side of each using a fine needle tool. Then pre-baked them and added some soft pastel to the edges. Sealed that with a matte glaze. You can then add any toppings of your choice and bake again. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.